From 1607 to 1733, 13 distinct British colonies developed along the Atlantic coast of North America. As time passed, each region took on unique characteristics based on its climate, geography, and the backgrounds of its settlers. These differences shaped colonial society, economy, religion, and politics, and laid the groundwork for what would eventually become the United States. In today's video, we're going to look at the birth of the 13 colonies. Let's get started. We begin with Jamestown, Virginia, founded in 1607. It was the first permanent English settlement in America, established by the Virginia Company, a joint stock enterprise chartered by King James I. Many of the first settlers were gentlemen hoping to strike it rich by discovering gold. What they found instead were swamps, mosquitoes, and disease. Dysentery and malaria decimated the population, and clashes with Native Americans were frequent. The colony barely survived its early years thanks to the leadership of Captain John Smith. But Jamestown didn't become profitable until John Rolfe and his wife Pocahontas introduced tobacco cultivation, turning the crop into an economic lifeline. Still, by 1624, the Virginia Company had gone bankrupt, and the king took direct control, transforming Virginia into the first royal colony. In 1632, part of Virginia was split off to form Maryland, granted by King Charles I to George Calvert, also known as Lord Baltimore, a Catholic noble. Maryland was intended as a safe haven for Catholics facing persecution in England. The colony passed the Maryland Act of Toleration in 1649, granting religious freedom to Christians, particularly Catholics. But this would later be repealed, and voting rights for Catholics were soon stripped. The Chesapeake region, Virginia and Maryland, was defined by its mild climate and fertile soil. Tobacco farming dominated the economy, and most colonists farmed small plots of land for subsistence, but wealthy planters also operated massive plantations of over 2,000 acres, relying on indentured servants and eventually enslaved Africans. Anglicanism was the dominant religion, although Maryland also housed Catholics and Jews. Social hierarchy was sharply divided. In stark contrast to the Chesapeake colonies, New England was built on religious motivations, not the pursuit of wealth. The first New England colonies were Plymouth and Massachusetts Bay, founded beginning in 1620. The Pilgrims, separatists escaping religious persecution, sailed abroad the Mayflower, intending to land in Virginia, but were blown off course and settled in Plymouth instead. A nearby colony, Massachusetts Bay, was founded in 1630 by Puritans, led by John Winthrop. They wanted to reform the Church of England, not separate from it. During the Great Migration, over 15,000 settlers arrived in Massachusetts Bay, fleeing political and religious turmoil in England. In 1691, Plymouth and Massachusetts Bay merged into the Massachusetts colony. Though founded on the idea of religious freedom, Puritan leaders in Massachusetts Bay didn't tolerate dissent. In 1635, Roger Williams was banished for challenging the colony's stance on native land and religion. He founded Providence, which supported religious freedom and recognized Native American rights. In 1638, Anne Hutchinson was also banished for her religious views and founded Portsmouth. By 1644, Providence and Portsmouth were united into Rhode Island, a colony rooted in tolerance. Meanwhile, Thomas Hooker led a group from Massachusetts Bay to form Hartford in 1636. A second colony, New Haven, followed. In 1665, they merged into Connecticut, a royal colony with the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, the first written constitution in the colonies. New Hampshire became the final New England colony in 1679 when King Charles II separated it from Massachusetts to exert more royal control. New England's long winters, rocky soil, and natural harbors shaped a mixed economy of rum, fishing, lumber, and subsistence farming on small family plots. Most colonists were Puritans or Presbyterians, but church influence was declining by the 1660s. To retain members, the Puritan church introduced the halfway covenant, which allowed for partial church membership without a full conversion experience. Over time, the strict religious zeal of the early Puritans faded. To the south, new colonies emerged with different priorities. In 1663, South Carolina was created from land grants to 8 nobles. By the mid 1700s, it featured large rice plantations worked by enslaved Africans. Its port, Charleston, became a major hub of the slave trade. North Carolina developed differently, more independent and with smaller tobacco farms run by settlers from Virginia and New England. Slavery was present but less central to the economy. In 1732, Georgia became the 13th colony, founded by James Oglethorpe as a buffer between South Carolina and Spanish Florida, and as a place to relocate debtors from England. Slavery was initially banned, but later adopted it to match South Carolina's plantation economy. The southern colonies shared a mild climate and fertile land, fueling an agricultural economy based on rice and indigo. Like the Chesapeake, society was highly stratified. Planters operated massive estates with enslaved labor, while most colonists lived on small farms. The Anglican church was dominant across the region. The middle colonies, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, emerged as the most diverse in terms of religion, ethnicity, and the economy. In 1664, the British took New York from the Dutch and gave it to the king's brother, the future King James II. A representative assembly was formed in 1683. Believing New York was too large, the colony was split into East and West New Jersey, but by 1702, they merged into one royal colony. To the west, Pennsylvania was granted to William Penn, a Quaker. Quakers believed in interreligious authority, nonviolence, and equality of the sexes. Penn ensured fair treatment of Native Americans and promoted the colony with promises of religious and political freedom. In 1702, Penn granted the lower three counties of Pennsylvania their own assembly, forming Delaware. With milder winters, rich soil, and natural harbors, the middle colonies developed into the breadbasket region, producing wheat and corn on farms up to 200 acres. Trade, manufacturing, and port cities like New York and Philadelphia flourished. The middle colonies were the least socially stratified and the most religiously diverse of all the regions. Despite being under British rule, the colonies developed their own political systems, mainly due to geographic distance from England. In Virginia, the House of Burgesses was created in 1619 as the first representative government in the Americas. Though promoted as democratic, it was dominated by wealthy planters. In New England, town meetings allowed local men to vote on laws and elect representatives. In Massachusetts Bay, all Puritan male church members could vote, regardless of wealth. These democratic roots trace back to the Mayflower Compact, signed in 1620, where pilgrims agreed to make decisions by majority rule. Still, full participation was limited. Only male property owners could vote. Women, the landless, and enslaved people were excluded entirely from the political process. By 1733, Britain had established 13 colonies, each shaped by its own environment, its people, and its purpose. From the plantation economies of the South to the Puritan theocracies of New England and the pluralism of the Middle Colonies. These regions laid the foundation for American society, but also highlighted the challenges of unity and the inequalities that would shape future struggles. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.